Hello, general psychology students, and welcome to week 6. This week, we're going to be covering chapter 15, psychopathology. In my opinion, this is the most important chapter in the entire book. The reason why I say this is from a personal experience. About 15 years ago or so, I was part of a church organization called St. Vincent de Paul. And people would call the church who need financial assistance in some way. And as a church member, we would go to the person's house, evaluate the extent to which, like how much money they needed, try to hook them up with resources. And as I did this, I just felt like I was meeting people who are suffering from depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress syndrome, substance abuse issues. It seemed to me like almost everyone I met, yes, they needed money, but what they really had going on was they were suffering with a mental health issue. And when I asked over and over again, do you think that you might have a psychological issue that would, you could be helped by treatment? It just felt from looking at their faces and their responses that they felt that I was judging them negatively, that somehow suggesting to them that they had a mental health issue meant that they had a character flaw, meant that there was something wrong with them, not wrong with the chemicals in their brain. The way when someone is diabetic, there's something wrong with their pancreas. It seemed like they thought I was saying there was something wrong with them. And because of that, I feel like they were not seeking out treatment. And there was so much needless suffering that I saw. In this chapter, you are going to get information about each of the mental health, or not all of them, but many of the mental health disorders, many of the most common mental health issues. I hope that you will really spend the time that it takes to understand these mental health issues, and that you'll share this information with friends and family members. There's so much misinformation out there that I think that has helped to create a stigma toward people with mental health issues. I think another problem or issue of why maybe the stigma exists is because it just hasn't been that long since we've really understood mental health the way we understand it today. My daughter right now is earning a PhD at Berkeley in California, and her mentor there is Steve Hinshaw. And he wrote sort of an autobiography, a memoir in 2017 called Another Kind of Madness. And in his memoir, he talks about his father. He talks about how his dad was a very brilliant man. In fact, went to college with Einstein, so brilliant man. But his father would disappear for months at a time. And in his family, no one talked about it or made a big deal of it. The father was just gone. And of course, as a little boy, Steve thought, what am I doing that's making dad go away? And I'm sure he found the whole thing pretty anxiety provoking. Steve then goes off to college. He goes to Harvard, and his father comes to visit him, or maybe he flew home. But anyway, at this point in his life, his father sits him down and says, Steve, you might have wondered where I've been going in my life, where from time to time when you were a kid, I had to leave for months at a time. I bet you wondered where I was going. I have schizophrenia and I have hallucinations with it. And when I would get hallucinations, I would be institutionalized. I was told that that's just too much information for children to understand. So I should not share this information with you until you're an adult. Now that you're in college, you're an adult, I can tell you. Of course, this just changed Steve's whole life. He changed his major to psychology. As he went through his PhD program, he realized that his father had been misdiagnosed and really had bipolar, that had hallucinations and manic episodes. Got his father on better treatment, and changed the trajectory of his life and many other lives. But part of Steve's life right now is dedicated to getting rid of the stigma toward mental health issues. He believes that if his father had been able to be open about what was going on, and the community had embraced him the way we embrace people with cancer, the way we embrace people with diabetes, the way we embrace people with asthma, that his childhood would have been different. Not that it was bad, but that there's no reason for this needless suffering. And so again, I really hope that you take the information that I'm going to share in this chapter to heart. Really try to help people that who have a mental health issue, You let them know that you're there for them, that this is what you know about it, what's their experience, and that you do not think any less of them as a person. In fact, that's so flawed. We don't think less of someone who has diabetes. We don't say, well, your pancreas doesn't work, so it's a flaw for you. It's a character flaw. You just need to get over it. But we don't even think that way. I would like to see mental health issues to be treated the same way. They're brain disorders. There's something that's going on in the brain. And we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about it even more in the next chapter when we get to the therapy chapter. Now, some of you are going to say, well, it's not that common anyway. So what if there's a stigma against people with mental health issues? They're just not that common. Well, that's wrong. I'm going to go into the actual statistics when we talk about the treatment. But between 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people, it's between 20 and 25% of people have a mental health issue at some point in their life. That's most families, or oftentimes families have 2 kids. So you're talking about 4 people in a family. So most families will have one person with a mental health issue, at least at one point in their life. Others have many more than their fair share. So it is common in your friend group, in your family, in this class. This online class this semester has 32 students. So statistically, 6 of you have a mental health issue. So it is common. And having a stigma associated with it is causing and creating a lot of needless suffering. So I hope you take the information I'm going to share in this chapter very seriously, and you become one of the advocates to start conversations about mental health, and to be one of the people that people with a mental health issue feel that they can talk to openly, not for treatment, but as a compassionate listener. The way a diabetic can go, kind of sucks to have diabetes sometimes. Someone can talk to you, it kind of sucks to have ADHD sometimes, or depression sometimes, or whatever the issue is. Okay. In the next video, I'll start talking about the PowerPoint slides for this chapter.